vertebrae in his back. He started wearing a back brace when he was a fusion surgery at the age of 6, and he continued to wear a brace as he grew, just trying to help minimize that curvature. But by the time he was 14, the doctors were saying that he was going to need to have titanium rods put down either side of his spine, and I did not feel good about him having that surgery at all. So I started praying and searching everywhere I knew to look for some alternative, and it was just a few months later that someone called me up and told me about Relive. She just said, Glenda, I don't know if this is for you or not, but you have got to hear some of these stories about what's happening for people, because I really think this could help your son. And so as I started hearing the stories, just like you'll hear on the call today, I was blown away. People getting, health results not only with scoliosis like my son had, but, heart disease, diabetes, allergies, you name it. People were getting results. And people were also, helping other people and building incredible businesses. And so we actually started as distributors right away before we'd even tasted the products. And that was such an incredible decision, because it not only got a good volume of product in our home, but it set us up for success from the beginning, so that we could start sharing right away. It was incredible watching our son, though, as he got started on the products right away. His color improved, his energy picked up. By 3 months on the products, his pain was completely gone. 7 months on the products, we took our son back for another x-ray, and he no longer needed that surgery. So today, our son is 24. It's hard to believe he's already 24, but he is thriving. He is married now, has a child of his own, and living in Alaska, actually working construction. So we're thrilled with just how this has impacted his life, and so thankful for the person that shared Relive with us. For myself personally, our whole family has seen results. For lack of time, I can't share everyone's results, but just a bit of mine personally. I had my own list of issues going on when we heard about Relive, and certainly I was so focused on my son, I didn't even think that I could possibly get results as well, but started to take the products right along with him. And I was actually dealing with chronic pain due to a herniated disc in my back. I dealt with back pain off and on for about 20 years, but about a year before we heard about Relive, I had herniated my lowest disc, and it sent me into pain that I did not even know was possible. I've had several children, and I had never experienced pain like I did when I herniated that disc. So getting started on the Relive products, though, lo and behold, my body took hold of this nutrition and went to work as well. The first week on the products, I noticed better sleep, more energy, just this sense of well-being. And then very gradually and yet very progressively, my pain became less and less. My body grew stronger. And it was right about a year into taking the products for me when I was completely pain-free, which was phenomenal after dealing with, that kind of pain for so long. And now here I am, 8 years later. I've been taking the products consistently for all these years, and I can do whatever I want to do. I can run, bike, ski, jump rope, it doesn't matter. And I have earned my brown senior belt in Taekwondo. I've actually competed at a national Taekwondo competition and earned 2 gold medals and a silver medal. And then my most recent and I would say most exciting result to date is earlier this year, in February at the age of 47, I had our 5th child. It was quite a surprise for our family, but yet at the same time, such a blessing to be able to, have another member of our family, and to be able to, have Relive to go through my pregnancy and delivery, and just to see what a healthy baby she is. That has been truly thrilling for us. As far as the business, like I mentioned, we did become distributors right away. And then it was the 3rd month that we were in the business that we attended an international conference, just like the one coming up next month in St. Louis. And we saw such a big picture of Relive there, and were able to, meet people in person that we'd been hearing their story over the phone, meet the corporate leaders, and that is when Relive truly I tell people it went from our head to our heart, because we really got a better glimpse, a bigger glimpse of what we had a hold of, and it was huge. And so we came home and started sharing with everyone that would stand still long enough to listen. And just in the last half of that month, the last 2 weeks of that month, we were able to help enough people that we actually placed second for volume in the U.S. and earned a $4,000 bonus. And just in that 1 month, we totaled over $5,600. And that was phenomenal for us, because here I am. I was a stay-at-home mom, homeschooling our kids, and I was able to do this around our family. And really, with no idea what I was doing that early on, I was simply sharing my excitement and connecting people with the stories. And so we've gone on to earn another top 10 finish. Another time we placed sixth in the nation and earned a $2,000 bonus there. My business has been able to ebb and flow with our family, depending on what's been going on. I've been able to step back, focus on our kids, focus on our marriage. But the beautiful thing is, at the top profit level, you can build that residual income, and I have not once, there hasn't been 1 month go by, whether I was working or not, that I have not received a check from Reliv based on the hard work that I had already done. And so excited to be, continuing to share Reliv, and we're never going to stop. I mentioned to Joni the other day that, Reliv has really become a part of who I am. It's not just something that I do. It's truly a part of me, and I can't ever think of not sharing it. So I'll keep going. That's it.
That's just an amazing story. It's just as amazing the second time you hear it as the first time, Glenda. It's so exciting about your last addition to your family. It makes me smile whenever I hear that, and this taekwondo bit too.
Yeah,
it's a great story. Definitely. Well, thank you so much for sharing that, Glenda. I don't think you've left anything out. It's just great. So I'm going to move now back across to Northern Ireland and introduce our second speaker, Andrea Gracie, and she has had amazing results too. And she is just a lovely person, and we really appreciate having her over here in Northern Ireland. So, Andrea, I'll just let you explain to everybody what Reliv has done for you in your life so far.
Hi everyone, my name is Andrea Gracie. I'm 44. I'm from Hillsborough in County Down. I work as a deli supervisor. For the past 23 years I have suffered from food intolerances and asthma. I was introduced to Reliv at the end of November. I started on the product, and after about approximately 3 weeks I noticed I wasn't needing any antihistamine, which I had to carry with me due to reactions which were similar to anaphylaxis. After another few weeks, I realised I wasn't using my inhalers at all, and thankfully I haven't needed them since. I'm not saying that Reliv is a cure, but it has definitely made such a change in my life that I don't even need my inhalers. I've had no chest infections at all throughout the winter months while I was on the product, and this was unheard of for me. I just had repeat chest infections. I get a great night's sleep, a good restful sleep. I have no energy slumps throughout the day, and I think we're now with a very clear head, and I'm really glad I discovered Reliv.
That's just a great story, and it's so great, I'm sure, to be without your inhalers, and it happened so gradually for you, didn't it, Andrea?
Yes, and nearly without me noticing, I suppose. I always kept antihistamines with me. They just stayed in my purse. I just had them with me everywhere because I had such bad reactions and no real reason why, just different food intolerances. And it's great to not need inhalers. Like, it was the first thing I reached for in the mornings. And it's just great not to need them.
I know, it's fantastic. Your mum had results too, didn't she? With something, Andrea, would you mind just explaining a wee bit about that?
No bother at all. My mother had suffered from restless legs for, in fact, years. She had really bad bouts of it, but they never really went away. And after just 2 weeks on the Reliv product, her restless legs disappeared. And she hasn't suffered from them. She still takes the product consistently, and she doesn't have restless legs anymore.
I know, it's just amazing what the good nutrition can do in your body and how it can work. And you have got involved in the business too. You've just started off as well. So it's really, really great to have you as part of our team. You're such so faithful all the meetings, you and Angus. It's been great. So, Joni, I'm going to hand back over to you now for the rest of the call to introduce the next speaker.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I know that was Andrea's first time of sharing. Andrea, you sounded like a pro. That was wonderful. I know sometimes it can be intimidating the first time, but you were wonderful. So thank you. Thank you for that. And yep. Now, as people are on this call, you're hearing just amazing results about what has happened to people's health. You heard a little bit about the business. The other part about Relive, which is amazing, is the network of support that we have from each other. I have no financial connections to Glenda. I know I could call Glenda anytime and she would share her story. I know I can call up almost anybody in the Relive world, call them and say, to introduce myself and say, hey, would you be willing to share your story? And they always do. It's just amazing. There's no other business like this in the world. And our next guest is a great example. She has no idea who I am. And I had heard her story somewhere and knew that there were some people on this call who needed her story. I reached out to her yesterday, shared who I was, and asked her if she would be as gracious as to share her story on the call today, and immediately she said yes. So I'm so excited to have a new Relive friend. You're going to absolutely love her story. Her name is Rita Taylor. And Rita, if you could just share what happened to you and your husband, it would be great.
I would absolutely love to. Well, our Relive journey actually goes back almost 21 years. And when we were introduced to Relive, it was actually through our youngest son, who was going to college out of state and pursuing a degree in the ministry, and heard about Relive at church. And came home on a break and told us about it. At that time, I was a nurse. I was taking a handful of vitamins every day. My health was less than perfect by all means, and I was not looking for another vitamin to take, and I was not looking for a business opportunity. In fact, I actually told him, no, I don't think I'm interested. Well, because of the incredible people in this company, a lady called me that knew my son from church, and she started sharing from her heart how these products had impacted her family. And that got my attention, but as a nurse, I was very, very skeptical. At that point, I still wasn't interested, but, she did an enormous favor for me, and it's kind of what was this referred to. She introduced me to some great stories, and it was the stories that got me to thinking, well, what if what I'm hearing is true? Maybe I should try this stuff. It's got a money-back guarantee. I've got no risk. It's not going to work for me, and I can get my money back. Well, we decided to try the products. In the first month, my husband started coming home from his job as a chemist very unstressed. The stress in his job was just horrendous. I thought it was going to kill him, and I noticed it about 3 weeks. He seemed to be more relaxed, not so stressed out. But other things were happening at the time we didn't even realize. He has psoriasis, and his psoriasis was so bad over the years that his hands would crack and bleed. He would wear a dozen Band-Aids at any given time, and he was wearing medication, putting medication on and wearing latex gloves to bed at night just because it was easier than a whole bunch of Band-Aids. And as we started taking the products, his psoriasis got better. I mean, he had it all over his body. He had it in his scalp and his ears and in all his bony prominences. And today his hands are pristine. There's absolutely no psoriasis on his hands at all. And to me, that is just utterly amazing. And by the way, he was on pretty good doses of prednisone and cortisone creams way back then, too, and using ultraviolet treatments. Today, he does not use those treatments. But his hands, as I said, are pristine. But he was able to keep his cholesterol down. The doctor wanted to put him on statin drugs a number of years ago, and he said, no thanks, I don't want to take those drugs. And today, his cholesterol is normal. It helped him very first month get over the after effects of Lyme's disease. He was treated for it, but he still felt rotten. He felt flu-like and just did not feel like himself. And that first month, all those symptoms went away as well. But for me, I was dealing with a number of health issues. I had osteoarthritis, so I had a lot of joint pain and stiffness. getting out of bed in the morning for me was just about a nightmare. I couldn't stand up straight and walk. I just kind of hobbled into the bathroom, and I found myself, after I was on Relive over a month or so, I found myself getting up and walking normally without having to hobble and try and get my body moving again. And so that's been incredible. Here, fast forward, it'll be 21 years in November since we started on Relive. I don't take anything for arthritis. And I'm probably a good 98 to 99% pain and joint stiffness free. I also, about 37 years ago, I was diagnosed with irritable bowel syndrome, and so many people have that. I was put on medication, told to avoid the foods that bothered me, and watch my diet, and avoid stress. Well, you just can't avoid stress today. I mean, you just can't. But anyway, I haven't had to take any of that medicine. Now let's see, it's been, probably into that first 6 months, I realized I wasn't having those symptoms. And gradually took myself off that medication one pill at a time. And so it's great to be able to eat whatever I want, not have all those horrible, horrible symptoms of IBS. But I also was diagnosed with Raynaud's disease. It's an autoimmune disease, and if you know autoimmune diseases, there's no cure for any of them. The neurologist basically said that I would have to learn to live with it, that there was no cure. He said, keep your hands and feet warm, stay out of the cold, we live in the Midwest. And if you want, I think he could see the desperation in my expression, because I'm like, there's no cure. What am I going to do? Because mine was pretty bad. Even in going into a air-conditioned room or a grocery store in the summertime, I would have a Raynaud's attack. So at the last resort, he prescribed a medication called Procardia. I haven't had any Procardia in over 20 years. I haven't had one issue with it. To me, that is just, I am so blessed. It's just amazing to me that this is not an issue for me anymore. I'm so thankful that someone cared enough to tell us about this. My symptoms of rosacea are gone. And, the other thing that's happened for both my husband and myself is our vision. I had no idea. When we were introduced to Relive, we were both wearing bifocals. And over time, our eyes have gotten better to the point that we no longer require prescription glasses. To me, that is just amazing. I can go to church and read the songbook, and I don't have to put on my glasses. And that's been wonderful. But, we just have had great results with the products, and we just started sharing that. At first, for me, it was very part-time because I was working full-time at the hospital. But over time, I just knew these products worked, and I knew that I could help a lot of people if I just had the time. So 7 months later, I walked away from a full-time nursing career to do this as a business. And 18 months later, we were averaging over $5,000 a month, and my husband took early retirement from his stressful job. We've been on a lot of trips with this company. I think the most exciting, life-changing trip we've ever been on is when we were number 2 in the nation for a promotion the company had for a trip to Rome, Italy, and a private audience with the Pope. And that was Pope John Paul, who's now been canonized as a saint. And that's just been such a gift. But just knowing that we've got something that can help people, can change lives, and make a difference for others, we are so, so blessed that someone cared enough to tell us about this. And this is something that we will continue to share with others, because others deserve to have that hope that we were given.
Wow, Rita, what an incredible story. My goodness, your whole life, your whole family has changed because of what your son learned at church.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Now, how long did it take before you started to notice a difference with your osteoarthritis? Do you remember back then?
Oh, gosh, it was a gradual process. I would have to say probably sometime into this, if I had to think back, probably into the second month where I noticed more significant changes. It wasn't immediate, of course. It was just a gradual thing. And but it's just nice. I'm not stiff when I get out of bed in the morning. It's just incredible.
That is amazing. And to have no more issues with your Raynaud's was something that your doctor said, just deal with. There's nothing we can do to help you. And it's been a total non-issue.
Exactly.
Wow.
It is. I mean, I can put my hands in ice water. I can get my freezer. I can go in the coldest environment, and I don't have any issue.
Fantastic. Well, Rita, it was very kind of you to answer my call yesterday and so willingly to be on this call. I know there's going to be a lot of people inspired by your story, and thank you so, so very much for sharing the story with us.
Oh, well, thank you for asking me. Have a blessed day.
You too. You too. Take care. Now I'm going to go over to Veronica McCarthy. Veronica also has a absolutely amazing story. And, oh, my goodness, I know that everybody's just going to be so blessed to hear this. So, Veronica, if you could share with us what your life was like before Relive and what it is after Relive or since Relive for you and your family.
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you perfectly.
Okay, great. My name's Veronica McCarthy. I live right outside Chicago. I've been on Relive for about 10 years now. But before Relive, I have an autoimmune disease called celiac sprue. And because I went undiagnosed for so many years, I developed severe arthritis. My spine, my neck, my hip was really bad. I also had chronic fatigue. It was really hard to get anything done during the day, and I had 3 small kids at the time. And I had migraines that went into optical migraines. So at least once a week, I would lose vision in one eye. And when it started, I would have to stop whatever I was doing, close my eyes, and just wait until it was over. So if I was driving, I'd have to pull over. And it was really scary, and that was getting more and more frequent. So I was really worried about that. I was introduced to Relive by my sister, and I did not want to try it because new things always made me sick, and I was afraid to do it. But she also had celiac disease, and she was getting results. So she was like, you just have to try it. So finally I did, and by the first night, I slept through the night after taking it, which I was shocked because I never sleep through the night because of the arthritis pain. And by the first week, I did not get an optical migraine, and that shocked me because I was getting them for years. So that was another thing that was huge for me. And then gradually, I started getting more and more energy, and the arthritis pain started, getting less and less. But it took about 6 months before the arthritis pain was completely gone. But I had the same thing where when I got up in the morning, I could not stand up straight, and I would have to get into a hot shower and then gradually stand up, and all of that went away. Now, this was all happening in my 20s, and I was so afraid, what was I going to be like in my 50s? So after Relive, I'm in my 50s now, I'm 56. I have so much more energy than I had in my 20s. I just feel so blessed to have Relive that my health has taken such a good turn now. But with my family, I have 5 daughters. The oldest 3 have celiac as well, and the last 2 were adopted from China. And the one baby had chronic bronchitis. So when I brought her home from China, she had a runny nose. She had the runny nose for 2 full years before Relive. She would have strange fevers, like at night she would have 102 fever, and then the next day it would be gone. And that kept happening over the 2 years. She was in the hospital several times for bronchitis that would go into pneumonia, and she was on antibiotics all the time. And so when we finally heard about Relive, she was 4 at the time, and she has not been on one antibiotic since. She might get a little cold in the winter, but it never goes into bronchitis. So it's been over 10 years now with no antibiotics for her. And then the youngest one had tuberculosis in China. So when we brought her home, she was like on the autism spectrum. You couldn't hug her. She had sensory issues. She would wake up with screaming night terrors, I think they call it. And whenever she would get a cough, I think it would remind her of the time in China with the TB, because she would be hysterical, screaming, and there was nothing you could do. So with her now, I brought Relive to China with me. So she started on it then, and by 6 months, you gradually saw all of this lessening. She was a new kid at 6 months, and we went to one of our Chinese group meetings, and no one could believe she was even the same child, because all through China, she screamed. The whole trip we were there, everyone knew her as the screaming baby. So she has done fabulous on Relive, and her as well. She has not been on an antibiotic. So now she's almost 11, so it's been 7 years for her. And then my husband is a truck driver, and it started where he was losing his peripheral vision. So when he would go for the test, the driving test, he would just have to guess when the flashing lights would be on because he couldn't see them. And we were at a conference, and another man told him how Reverse Age had helped him with his vision. So my husband started that when we came home. 6 months later, he had his peripheral vision back. He passes his driver's test, no problem. So that was wonderful because we were so afraid, what if he would, lose his job? He has to pass the vision test. So that was great. And then my other daughters with the celiac, they have had great energy, great focus in school. The one has central auditory processing disability, and she saw a huge improvement in school with that, and she went on to become a nurse. So it really has changed our life.
Wow. Veronica, that is an incredible story. For every single person in your family. Just absolutely amazing. And people can have their opinions. You may walk up to somebody and share your excitement about Relive, and people, some people are open to making changes, but some people have their opinions. But when you hear these stories, this is the reality, and reality trumps opinion every time. And that's why it's so important just to expose people to a lot of stories. I mean, after the 4 stories that you've heard tonight, does anybody really think that there's not one person in the whole world, I wouldn't imagine, who would say no to Relive if they actually knew and understood what this was? Oh, my goodness. Veronica, thank you so much for sharing that amazing story. It was absolutely inspirational. And Rita, Andrea, Glenda, I can't thank you enough for sharing on the story. It was 4 amazing stories tonight. I hope everybody walked away I know everybody walked away very inspired from this call.